I got about a quarter inch of rain over the last about 12 hours, and the Weather Channel saying I got another quarter inch of rain coming in today and another quarter inch of rain tomorrow. And I have some news today. I was thinking about it, and I don't really think that it's good news. It just is what it is. But I got an appraisal letter yesterday, and I was saying that I think that I have somewhere around about 150 to 200,000 cash, about access to about that much money. But my appraisal letter came in yesterday. I got an appraisal letter yesterday, and so I was actually off by $77,247 than what I estimated. And so I actually have about 200 to 250,000. And so I mean, but I know that, and I was thinking, and this is gonna sound horrible, but I mean, okay, this is actually the second time that it's happened. This is actually the second time that it happened. The first time that it happened, I had $100,000 sitting, and I didn't even know that I had it. And this is actually the second time that it happened in 365 days. I actually I have about 55. It's 77,247, and but it's because imagine and think about it like this. All right, it's like I have about $2 million worth of equity, right? And imagine what $77,000 is in comparison to 2 million. I mean, we're talking about it's like less than 5% or something. I don't even know, but but here is the overarching picture, is that I may have more money than I thought I did, but it doesn't really change anything, right? I talked about this all the time. 70 grand, 200 grand is not gonna do anything. All right, I can it doesn't matter. I mean, 70 grand, 200 grand is not going to change anything. All right, if $200,000 was what is legitimately going to be what stops you from living your dream, not even living your dream, nobody cares about your dream. But if you see an opportunity, like let's say that you see an opportunity and you're like, you know what, I can actually go out onto this thing and I can make myself $10,000 a month, and it's going to cost me, and I need a loan for 200 grand. If I take a loan for 200 grand, I can go and make myself $120,000 a year. Well, if you present your deal to a bank, if you communicate properly and you know how to communicate and you communicate properly, the bank will lend you that 200 grand for like $1,000 a month. Okay, I mean, it doesn't matter. If the big idea is that you need to learn how to communicate. I talk about this all the time. It's very important, and it's like and I know that this, and when I say it like this, it sounds horrible, but I'm just gonna be very, very blatant. I'm just gonna be very blunt about it. I'm just gonna be very straightforward about it. It's like you really don't know, but it's like if you're a poor person, you communicate, everything that you do comes off as a poor person. All right, and that's why I take so much time and I put so much effort into, this is how I communicate with bankers, this is how I look at numbers, this is how I communicate with deals, etc., etc. All right, if and I've already laid out a business plan for you. If I were to start over again from the very beginning with nothing, what would I do? I would go and look for a 20-acre piece of land, because a 20-acre piece of land in the middle of Central Texas is effectively about $1,000 a month. If you finance the entire thing and you got a really nice one, maybe you would pay $1,500 a month, but it's $2,000 a month. But tomato, it's the same thing, right? I mean, we're talking about $500 to $1,000 a month of difference. It's the same thing. All right, and so it's like if you have a 20-acre piece of land and you grow grass on it, and you even get to the 10% mark, then you can actually cash flow enough money on your property to pay for the property. And you've effectively entered a situation where you can now practice for free, and there is no skipping the practice, there is no skipping the work. If you legitimately have convinced yourself that you're just going to skip the work and you're just going to magically end up in a situation like this, number one, you're not going to get to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000. And number two, you're actually just going to end up launching yourself off a cliff. I guarantee it's not possible. There is no skipping the work, all right? And it doesn't matter what you think. Money talks, all right? And in terms of my financial situation, I actually had $70,000 more. I had $77,247 more than I thought I did. But it's the same difference to me. It doesn't matter. All right, it's like I thought it was gonna be I thought it was gonna be 200,000, but it turned out to be 200, and I thought it was gonna be 150,000, but it turned out to be 227,000. Same difference. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, and to put things into perspective, I mean, it's like if I really went out and instead of just utilizing my cash pile. Instead of just utilizing my cash pile, if I were to leverage my earnings for more money, I mean, I could, $77,000 is a minuscule amount of money. I could easily go to the bank right now and get myself another loan for, $500,000, no problem. I mean, it's $77,000 is a minuscule amount of money. It's not going to, and in terms of the broader things that I'm doing, it's not going to change anything. All right. It's like, oh my God, I thought I had 150, 200, but it turns out that I have 200, 250. It doesn't change anything, right? I mean, it's like, oh well, that's cool, right? I have 75,000 more dollars than I thought I had. I mean, that's neat, right? I mean, but I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, and so, and I've always talked about the ink wall. I've not always, but I've talked about this idea when I take a look at it for what it is. Once you begin to believe, I believe that this is a very important concept to understand, that once you believe that there is an ink wall, you will always perceive the ink wall as an ink wall until you cross it. If you are told from the very beginning that you cannot do things because you don't have the money, you need to understand that about 90% of the country makes less than $90,000 a year. All right, and you need to understand that, it's like when we're talking about, like if we were going to talk about, like if I were going to give you an honest situation, even if I had nothing, right? I mean, it wouldn't matter. Why? Because I would be broke. I would not be poor. It's a major difference. If you're poor, you're almost always guaranteed to be stuck that way. I guarantee it. It is almost a 100% possibility. It's almost 100%. If you are legitimately poor, you're probably going to die poor. If you're broke, it doesn't matter. All right. And, and I've already given a business plan. If even if I had nothing, it wouldn't matter because, it's like, I could, whatever. Right. I mean, what we're talking about is, it's like you just go and you get yourself a 20-acre piece of land, right? You put it on a non-payment agreement. You plant your grass on it, and you're going to be poor you're not even going to be poor. You're going to be broke for 6 months. And after 6 months, it's like me, when I run cattle, I effectively make so much money that I can do anything on the entire planet. I was actually thinking about this yesterday yesterday and this morning, but I have an appointment with another accountant. I've been interviewing different accountants. And I have my final appointment on the 16th. I found another accountant that I want to go and speak to, and this is the accountant that also offers payroll services. And I was speaking to one of their I guess the people that work in their office, and the people that work, the lady that works in the office was telling me that next year Trump is talking about lowering the corporate tax. And so I was asking them about, should I change my business over from an LLC to a corporation. And the accountant person was telling me that Trump may be reducing the corporate tax next year. And so if he does that, I would want to wait until he does that to change my business over from an LLC to a corporation. But they told me that they also do payroll, and so they told me that if I'm going to change my business from an LLC to a corporation, I would have to give myself a salary. It's like a requirement for a corporation to give myself a salary. And so I was like, because in terms of my expenses, if I want to buy anything for my business, I just pull the money from my business account. If I need to pay for like my bills, if I need to not pay for my bills, but like pay for my tractor or pay for my cattle or anything, I just take the money out of my business account, right? And so it doesn't really, there's no reason for me to sit around with an additional $9,000 a month personal salary, right? Why would I want to sit around with $100,000 a year cash salary, and then why would I want to do that as a personal salary? And so I was thinking, I was like, well, what can I realistically buy for a $3,000 a month salary, right? I mean, because if I'm legally going to have to do it, like if I am required to give myself a salary to change my business over from an LLC to a corporation to reduce my tax rate, if I'm legally required to give myself a salary, then I'm gonna do it, right? I mean, and so I was like, what would I pay myself? Well, I'll give myself an extra $3,000 a month on a salary. And it's all, you know, and I was thinking about this, but yesterday I was actually looking at what can I buy for $3,000 a month, right? And I mean, now we're talking about Lamborghinis, Ferraris. I mean, you know, it's like, do I want to buy myself you know, it's like it's like, what do I want to buy myself, right? I mean, what do I want to buy? I mean, and also the $3,000. I mean, it's like I'm gonna have like it's like a 7,000. My personal salary is gonna be like $7,000 a month, so it's $84,000 a year. And then I also have my business producing income, and anytime that I need to pay for anything for my business, I just pull the money from my business account. So I was like, you know what, then I remembered I was actually looking at Lamborghinis and Ferraris. I was like, I could buy myself a Lamborghini, I could buy myself a Ferrari, or so I put that on the list. All right, that's something that I could buy. But I have this meeting with the accountant on the 16th, and I remembered my previous idea. I remembered, it's like if I have a personal income like that, if I have a personal income, and then I have my business, and then I also have my business, and they're separated, right? And then there's legal protection for having an LLC, and there's probably also legal protection for having a corporation. And I was actually discussing this idea in the past, but it's like, can I use my personal income? Can I leverage my personal income to purchase land and then run my business on it, and then have the land be on my personal income side, and then have my business be on the business side? Would that legally protect me from losing my land in terms, if something were to go horribly wrong and I were to whatever, bankruptcy, right? I mean, it could be any, knock on wood, I don't want to give myself bad luck, but even if something like I've always talked about me in terms of my business, if I'm not here running my business, this thing effectively bankrupts immediately. Nobody else effectively will. When we're talking about something like this, we're talking about 5 people on the entire planet that can do it, right? I mean, the thing bankrupts immediately. If I walk away from my business, my business bankrupts immediately. And so I was like, God forbid, whatever, I get in a massive car crash, right? And then I pass away. Now my family is stuck with all of my business assets and everything, and they just filed the thing for bankruptcy. At that point, is my land, is there legal protection from me losing my land, right? I mean, it's like if I use my personal income to purchase land, and then I put my business assets on it. I use my business accounts to purchase my business assets or my personal assets. Is the land considered a personal asset, and is it protected from bankruptcy? Why would I want to discuss something like that? Because what if something happens, and effectively I am put in a situation where I need to effectively be gone from the farm. Like I get in a massive car crash and I become I become deceased, right? And now my family is stuck in a situation where they have all of these this massive number of cattle and this massive amount of land. And and it's like now what the heck, it's like Howard was like the only person that could ever do this. And so what do we do now? In a very and so it's like what are we gonna do, right? And so it's like is my land protected from my business, right? I mean, from bankruptcy, right? Not personal bankruptcy, but business filing bankruptcy, something like that, right? I mean, so I want to discuss that with my accountant. All right, if I give myself a salary, can I use my personal salary to buy land, and would that be separated from my business? And in terms of if something were to happen, right? And so I want to discuss that with my accountant. And the 1 year plan for what I am looking to accomplish is that when I take a look at what I'm doing, I believe that within 1 year, I will have 100 cattle, and those 100 cattle will have been stabilized. I will effectively be in a situation where within 365 days, I will have 100 cattle and my investment will be stabilized. And if the feeder cattle market is still effectively going anywhere from $2 to $2.50, anything like that, if the feeder cattle market is going sideways in that range, then when I have 100 cattle and those 100 cattle are stabilized, and I believe that I am going to gain those cattle, and then I'm going to be taking them to market, then I will look to buy myself another piece of land. I will tie up another piece of land on a non-payment agreement for 1 year, with the intentions of, if I have another piece of land, when I liquidate my cattle, I can buy more cattle and just put the cattle on the land instead of paying taxes, right? Now I get a tax deduction. And so that's something that I want to, I got a few questions from my lawyer, not my lawyer, my accountant. I got another accountant. He also does payroll services. And so, they were talking to me about taxes and the whole, the Trump, corporation tax reduction. And so, and I got a few questions too. And the big question is, if I want to utilize my personal, because if I'm going to be required to write myself a W-2, if I'm legally going to be required to do that, to change my business over from an LLC to a corporation, whatever the corporation may be, would I legally be, first of all, would it be okay for me to use my personal, which I'm sure it is. Why would the government say, no, you can't use your personal income as a leverage to buy a piece of land? That's ridiculous. But I don't know, right? Technically I'm gonna be running a business on it, so I don't know. If I leverage my personal income, can I buy, to buy a piece of land, and then I run my business on it, and then let's say, God forbid, I get into a massive car crash tomorrow, and then I pass away, and now my family is sitting around with 150, 250 acres of land, and they got 400 cattle, right? Let's just think about it. Because realistically, it's like, who else do I know it's going to be like, it's like, if I left my family tomorrow with 400 cattle and 250 acres of land, that's not something that they can just pick up and do, right? It's not possible. All right, and so it's like, if God forbid, if something like that were to happen, would my business is filed for bankruptcy, then at least my family can just hold on to the land, right? Can just hold on to the land and the equitable value of the land, etc., etc., whatever the case may be, I don't know, it's like, how do I, because, this is something that I honestly had to think about, and this is, this is something that's a very kind of a realistic time for me to think about this, because it's like, if I'm going to go forward with this thing, I'm essentially putting myself in a situation where effectively nobody is capable of doing this. All right, it's effectively just me. And so it's like, if I'm going to go and I'm going to buy hundreds of acres and I'm going to buy hundreds of cattle, if something were to happen to me, then my family would effectively be in a pickle, right? It's like, it's like, how many people do you know that's just going to full on run a business like this by themselves? It's just me, right? And so it's like, how do I want to provide a protection. I want to provide I don't want to, like, if something were to happen to me, I don't want my family to be negatively affected by it, right? And so it's like, I'm gonna talk to my accountant about that, right? It's like, if I'm gonna have to legally write myself a W-2 anyway, and I can get myself legal protection and my family legal protection by utilizing my W-2 to buy land, then I will do that, no problem. That's fine by me, right? And so, I'm gonna, I got my appointment on the 16th. And so, by about this time next year, I believe that within 365 days, I will have 100 cattle. And when I have 100 cattle and my investment is stabilized, I will, at that point, and I believe that I'm about to liquidate my assets to purchase more assets, etc., etc., all of that good stuff. And I believe that I'm in a situation where it's like, I need to pay, $70,000 in taxes, or I can go out and I can buy myself 200 cattle. And if I buy myself 200 cattle, I can pay cash for whatever, for half of them, right? I'll have a cash account, right? Because I'll be liquidating cattle, and I'll effectively get to a point where I'm looking to build my cash stockpile as large as I can. Right now, in terms of my cash stockpile, maybe I have about $250,000, but I'm looking to increase that as substantially as I can. All right. Right now, I have access to about $200,000 to $250,000 cash liquid, and I'm looking to increase that amount as large as I can over the next 365 days, so that I can push forward and see what I'm gonna do. And I believe that within 365 days, I will have 100 cattle. Those 100 cattle will have been stabilized. My investment will have been stabilized, and if I believe that I need to liquidate those animals and purchase another, and if I want to, legally reduce my tax burdens to zero, or as close to zero as I can. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm paying $70,000 in taxes, right? If I want to reduce my income tax burdens as substantially as I can, then I can go out and I can purchase, I can sell the 100 cattle and I can buy 200, right? And then if I believe that I am about to enter that situation, I can find another piece of land, tie it up on a non-payment agreement for 1 year, and then when I buy the 100 cattle, I will just put them on the new piece of land. And so, yeah, that's it for me today, YouTube. You have a good one.